Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Greetings from Sridham, Mayapur, where it is 5:30 in the evening.
Hare Krishna.
It gets dark here already at, before 5:30, sort of 5 o'clock. Okay. Nice to see you all. Those of you I can see. And some of you I see your names. That's also nice. Who was that I saw for a moment? That disappeared. Jerica Labor, Yeritza Labar. I don't know if I know. But in any case, welcome. And did I just see Ananda Vrindavan, who is in Vrindavan, I think? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
You're walking somewhere in Vrindavan.
Yes.
How come it's still light there and it's completely dark? That's a little mysterious. We're in the same time zone.
I don't know. It's actually soon to be dark here, like in half an hour.
Yeah. Well, you're further north, but I would think that would mean you get dark earlier. But okay. Sometimes things are just mysterious. Okay, Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitangscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti namine. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, I hope you all had a good week this last week. As I can say that I had. Earlier today, we went for a swim in the Jalangi. And I must say, it is so nice. Not as cold as I expected. It was quite pleasant. There's no, practically speaking, no current. So unlike the Ganga, which it's actually, the Ganga is actually quite dangerous. You can be swept away in the Ganga. But the Jalangi it's a very shanti river. And yeah, just very nice. And perhaps relevant for our singing session is we have a new harmonium, which we went shopping for just yesterday. We went to Swarupganj. Swarupganj is the town on the other side of the Jalangi, just opposite of Hular Ghat. Those of you who have been in Mayapur will be familiar. There's a harmonium shop, and we tested out harmoniums and purchased one. And this was donated by Krishna Swarup and Jatamamsi, who are in Alachua, I believe. They've been in Alachua for some time. Okay, now you're going to get darshan of the harmonium. Hare Krishna. It's right here. Ta-da! Yeah, looks like any harmonium. Anyway. Okay, so let us enter into Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's second part of his Gopinath song. And for this, should I share the screen or does everyone have it?
Everyone has a copy, I mean the song, we have it, but also Soumya Karuni Mataji also share in chat. But if you want to share in the screen, Guru Maharaj.
Well, if there's no need, then I guess we can do it another way. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. Okay. Okay, now we're get organized here. Oh, we're on the same. Okay, close that. Yes. And we can put this like this. And, oh, yeah, that should work more or less. All right, here we have, this is song number 2 of Upalabdhi Vijnapti. And it's from Kalyana Kalpataru of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. And we had the first of, I think it's 3 parts of Gopinath, a prayer to Gopinath. So he's addressing, O Gopinath, O Lord of the Gopis. Ghucāo samsara jwālā, avidyā-jātanā, nāhi sahe, janama-maran, a-mālā. O Gopinath, please remove the torment of worldly existence. I can no longer tolerate the pain of ignorance and the repeated succession of births and deaths. So, ghucāo, this is in the imperative form, but it's imperative can also be a polite imperative, please. And samsara, we know what this means. In Bengali, samsara can also mean family. I wonder if there's some connection there. Jwālā means fire.
Plamya?
Torment. Avidyā-jātanā, see how he translates it. Jātanā he translates as pain. Sahe, this is tolerate. Nāhi, not anymore, not any further. Nāhi. Nāhi sahe, I can't tolerate it anymore. What can he not tolerate? Janama-maran, ā-mālā. The mālā, the series of births and deaths. And janama is, of course, stretched out from janma, or the metric, for the meter. Gopinath, amito kāmera dāsa. Okay, this is easy. Ami, I. To, it has an apostrophe, and I'm not sure what that would refer to, but it seems to be generally a kind of emphasis word in Bengali. It's like the German doch. Ich bin doch müde. So it works the same way as far as I know. Kāmera dāsa, dāsa is servant of what? Of kāma, of desire, of lust. So that's the possessive form of kāma, kāmera. āya-bāsanā, jagiche hridoye, pariche korama pangsa. Oh, Gopinath, I'm a servant of lust. Worldly desires are awakening in my heart. So jagiche, so we maybe know jiv jago is the imperative. Wake up, oh spirit soul. So jagiche is, what would it be? Present, continuous maybe. I am waking up. Hridoye, or rather the heart is waking up. āya-bāsanā. What is waking up in my heart? The vasanas, the strong impressions of vishaya, of sense objects. Paniche karma pangsa. Tighten, pariche, I think would mean to tighten. What is tightening? The pangsa. You can't see it in this version. It should be like PH long A N with some sort of dot or a curl. I forget what it's called. Pangsa. I think that can also mean a trap. And karma means karma. Again, it's stretched out with an extra syllable. Worldly desires are awakening in my heart, and thus the noose of fruit of work is beginning to tighten. Noose is like when a person is sentenced to death, he may be hanged. They put a noose around the neck, and that's the end of the life. So the noose of fruit of work, it's like a tight rope, and it's tightening around the neck. So he's saying, I'm desperate. I need help, and my only hope is you, Gopinath. Gopinath, kobe va jagibo ami kāma-rūpa ari dure teyagibo hridoye spuribe to me. O Gopinath, when will I wake up and abandon afar this enemy of lust? And when will you manifest yourself in my heart? So here comes the question, Kobe. And I don't know quite how the va works here, but it seems to be another emphasis word. Jagibo is the future tense. I will awaken. Ami jagibo. So when will I awaken? Kāma-rūpa ari, in the form of the enemy, ari is enemy of lust. Dure teyagibo, that's another stretched out word. The word is tyaga, renunciation, and then future tense, tyagibo, and then extended for meter, teyagibo. And dure means distant, in the distance. So when am I going to wake up and reject this enemy in the form of lust? Hridoye spuribe to me. When will, you can say the question is still there, kabe, when will you manifest spuribe in my heart? So there's a close connection between giving up lust and allowing the Lord to manifest in the heart. Gopinath amito tomar jano, tomare charya, shongshar bhajinu, bhuliya āpana-dhana. O Gopinath, I am your devotee, but having abandoned you, and thus having forgotten my real treasure, I have worshipped this mundane world. Amito, again, the emphasis. I am, of course, Tomar Jana. I am one of your people. I am your person. Tomar Jana. Tomare charya, having forgotten or rejected you. Shongshar bhajinu, absorbed in samsara. Bhajinu, I worship, or I worshipped, I guess it's past tense. I worshipped samsara. And bhuliya, having forgotten āpana-dhana, the wealth, the dhana of myself, my own my own wealth, my own treasure. Yeah, so much of Bhaktivinoda songs are, this confession, this remorse. I have forgotten you. My only hope is for you. Verse 5, Gopinath tumito shakali jano āpana-dhana dandiyā-jātanā śrī-caran deho stano. Oh, Gopinath, you know everything. Tumito shakali jano. So we had jana, that's short. This is an example of why short and long vowels make a big difference. So in verse 4, we had amito tomar jono, jona, person. And then in 5, tumito shakali jano. You, tumi, to, of course, certainly. No, jano, everything, shakali. āpana-dhana, jane, let's see. Having punished your servant, dandiyā-jātanā, now having punished your servant, āpana-dhana, your person, your one of your people, śrī-caran deho stano. Please give him a place at your lotus feet. So deha is give. Please give him a sthana, a place. Where? Śrī-caran, at your lotus feet. Gopinath ki vichar tava vimukha dakhiya charo nija-jane na karo karuna laba. Oh, Gopinath, is this your judgment? Okay, he's translating the word vichar as judgment, conclusion. Vichar usually means reflection, your analysis, your consideration. And ki is the question word. In this case, is it the case? Is this your conclusion, your reflection, your judgment? Vimukha dakhiya, that seeing me averse to you, averse here is vimukha. Mukha means face. Vimukha, face turned away. So seeing dakhiya, that I'm turned away from you. Charo nija-jane, you abandon your servant. Nija-jane, your own person. Charo, abandoning, giving up. And don't bestow even a particle of mercy upon him. Na koro karuna laba. Laba is a fraction. Karuna laba, a fraction of karuna, of mercy. Na koro, I think the apostrophe indicates it would be koroha. Koroha. You do not give any mercy, even a fraction. Is that your judgment? So he's kind of prodding Gopinath. Have you concluded that I'm a hopeless case? Gopinath amito muraka ati kise bhalo hoy. Kabhu na bhujino tai hano mama goti. Oh Gopinath, I am certainly very foolish. Murka, stretched out. From murka becomes muraka. And ati means very much. Ami to muraka ati. I am a big fool. And I've never known what is good for me. Bhalo means good. Kise, what? What is good? What would be good? What hoya is to be? Balohoy. Kabu na bujinu. At any time, kabu na bujino. I could not understand. Tai, therefore, hano, such, mama gati, this is my condition. Gati, of course, Sanskrit word also, gati can mean the goal, the destination, can mean also the way, the path. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam, kalo, nasteva, 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 gati, anyata. No other gati. Gopinath tumi to pandita bara. Mudher mangala tumi anveshive e dase na bhavo para. O Gopinath, you're indeed the wisest person. Pandita vara. Vara means excellent or choice, best of pandits. Again, tumito, amito, tumito. Please look for a way to bring about auspiciousness for this fool. Mudher mangala, mudher of this mudha, tumi anveshive, you may search for what? Mangala, for something, for auspiciousness. And please do not consider this servant as an outsider. E dase na bhavo para. Para, there's sva and there's para. And sva is one's own and para is another. And bhavo, again with apostrophe, must be bhavaha. Here translated as consider, regard, to have this mood that I am another, someone else, an outsider. E dase na bhavo para. Don't think of me as an outsider, please. Gopinath, 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 Lord of the Gopis. Okay, shall we try this with this brand new harmonia? ghucāo samsara jwālā avidyā-jātanā nāhi sahe janama-maran a-mālā gopināth ghucāo samsara jwālā avidyā-jātanā nāhi sahe janama-maran a-mālā gopināth amito kāmera dāsa aya-bāsanā jagiche hridaye hariche karama-pangsa gopinath. Amito kāmera dāsa aya-bāsanā jagice hridoye padice karama-pangsa gopinath. Kobeba jagibo ma'ami kāma-rūpa ari dure te-agibo hridoye spuribe tumi gopinath. Kabeba jagibo ami kāma-rūpa ari dure te-agibo hridoye spuribe tumi gopinath. Amito tomaran jana tomare chariya sangsara bhajina buliya āpana-dhana gopinath. Amito tomara jana tomare chariya sangsara bhajina buliya āpana-dhana gopinath. Amito tomara jana tomare chariya sangsare bhajina buliya āpana-dhana gopinath. Tumi to sakali jano āpana-dhana dandiya ekana śrī-caran dehosthana gopinath. Tumi to sakali jano āpana-dhana dandiya ekana śrī-caran dehosthana gopinath. Eki vichara tamo vimukha dakiya charo nija-jane nakaro karuna ā-laba gopinath. Eki vichara tamo vimukha dakiya charo nija-jane nakaro karuna ā-laba gopinath. Amito muraka ati kise ballo hoya kabuna bujino taihano mamagati gopinath. Amito muraka ati kise bhalo hoya kabuna bujino taihano mamagati gopinath. Tumi to anita-bhara mudera mangala tumi ambeshibe edāsana bhavapada gopinath. Tumito pandita vada mudera mangala tumi ande shive edāsana bhavapada gopinath. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Go Hare Bol. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai, Shri Gopinath ki jai. Hare Krishna. Welcome again, everyone, to Saturday Sanga from Sridham, Mayapur. We're about, I would say, around 400 meters from the Jalangi. Yesterday, when we means myself and Kishore Prabhu, he helped me with harmonium shopping yesterday because his Bengali is much better than mine. Mine being, my conversational Bengali being pretty non-existent. But he's been here for some years now, so he and Ananta Sarovara are both speaking Bengali. So he came and helped. And then after, I was remembering that my godbrother, Ram Shraddha Prabhu, lives in Sharupganj. And I hadn't seen him for so many years. He used to be in Germany, and he used to, sometimes he was with us in the Gauranga Bhajan band. And I had, some days before, his good wife, Janaki Mataji, was over here for an event. So seeing her reminded me that Ramshada's there. So anyway, we went over with no warning. We just appeared at his house, showed up, and they were both very happy to welcome us. And we had a very nice, we had darshan of his deities, beautiful altar, wonderful deities, Radharaman deity he has. And he lives right on the bank of the Jalangi, where it meets the Ganga, on the side opposite of Hulargat. So he has, I guess it's a 3-story house. And so from the, even 4, from the 3rd floor, I think it was, fantastic view of the Jalangi and the Ganga. It's all right there. Really amazing. So this is my, I should have made photo. Probably Kishore made photos. This is a little vision to share with you. Imagine being right next to the Jalangi and the Ganga. Yes, speaking of Ganga, a few days before that this week, as some of you may know, we had a nice initiation ceremony, initiating Sandhya Avatar Das. Sandhya Avatar, I don't know if he's with us today. He's been running around a lot. I guess not. But Sandhya Avatar is now an official member of the family. Anyway, we had the initiation ceremony at the Ganga temple. There's a temple, nice little temple, a sort of makeshift temple, but not so makeshift. It's anyway, it's quite nice. Run by ISKCON, and very nice brahmacharis there doing the worship. And on the side, they have a nice room, perfectly arranged for doing yagya. They have yagya kunda, just overlooking the Ganga, beautiful. So we had the initiation, and then myself and our priest for the yagya, Kāma-rūpa Prabhu, went for bathing in the Ganga, and Nanda Pran, the pujari, volunteered to guide us like a priest, guiding us in the proper way to perform a ritual bath in the Ganga. And it was so nice. He had all the mantras. There are mantras that are chanted before and during and after and in between. And there's many different, there's a few different procedures you do. And it feels very purifying, very much empowering and purifying. So I was blessed to have that experience. Okay. Now, there's the song. That answers my question. Param Damananda, you're in Gujarat. It looks like you're on the big screen. You have an interesting effect there. You're before a big crowd. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I think what we wanted to do today was to continue our discussion, our rather serious discussion, or very serious discussion from last time And there were some of you who, last time we had some of you, okay, back up. Some of you did make comments, and some of you didn't have time to make comments. The subject is this very difficult subject of child abuse in our society, and what to do about it, and how to, I think our biggest question really is how to heal victims, how to heal ourselves in feeling ourselves bewildered and very possibly challenged with regard to faith in senior devotees, and whether or not it will help our discussion. But one thought I've had about this over the last few days is that I think what is common for many, if not all of us, is a psychological condition which has a technical name, namely cognitive dissonance. It's a fancy term, cognitive dissonance, which means that you understand the world in a certain way, and however, the evidence, something happens or does not happen that you expect to happen, and it does not fit your understanding of the world. It is in conflict. So a classical example of course, from Wikipedia is there was some religious group in America in, I think it was the 1950s, who were convinced that the world is coming to an end, and it's going to come an end on such and such date, some date that was coming up very soon. And then the date came and the world didn't end, So then the question was for researchers, so how do the people who were following that group, what do they do with that? They were fully convinced the world's going to end. The world didn't end. So now what do they do? How do they adjust to this cognitive dissonance? And it's explained that there are basically two sorts of responses that one is likely to have. And one of them is rationalization. You rationalize, well, it's because of this and because of that and because of the other thing. You could say, actually, the world did end, but people haven't realized it yet. Or you could say it didn't end because, I don't know, some explanation is there. So that would be rationalization. And then there's another kind of response, and that is called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when you filter the information that you get so that you only get that information which supports your understanding of the world. And this is what we've seen a whole lot of in this whole period of the COVID time. Those persons who are convinced one way about this virus or the non-existence of the virus, we're getting all sorts of information confirming that this is the case. And those who were feeling, no, there is a virus and it is dangerous and there is need to protect ourselves from it. and of course, debates about how to protect. So they were finding other information which was supporting them. So that's confirmation bias. So it's quite possible we may find ourselves in this situation of doing either rationalization or confirmation bias when it comes to confronting and seeing within our society such a problem as this, the problem of child abuse, where persons highly respected have been implicated, and where persons in other persons who are highly respected, who are leaders, may be seen as covering up or avoiding, or in some way implicated in what's happening. So I just want to mention that because, as I said, cognitive dissonance is something, it's very disturbing. It disturbs us on an intellectual level, but it affects us, it can affect us very deeply because it's all about what is our faith, where is our faith, where is the foundation of our faith. And when that is shaken, then we're jumping, we're grasping for some sort of solution. So my point is, if we can just recognize, okay, here's some cause for cognitive dissonance, I don't want to rationalize it away, and I don't want to be involved in this confirmation bias, just seeing one side and not seeing the other. So what does that mean? That could mean that I have to live with cognitive dissonance for some time. Dissonance means not harmonious. Something doesn't go together. But what I'm suggesting is, can we sort of allow ourselves to be in that uncertain space? That may be necessary to do what I was suggesting at the end last time, is to go deeper into ourselves, into our own, the foundation of our own faith in Krishna. To recognize that Krishna is still there, that everything we learn, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, is still true. And we simply want to see how it is true and how Krishna is still with us. Right, these are my little thoughts on the subject. Who wants to continue from last time to comment? I think Arunadai-Shri, you wanted to say something, and I think Rindapati, you wanted to say something if you're there. But now I don't see either of them. So I'm not sure. Oh, there's Rindapati. Oh, there's Arunadai-Shri. Yes. Do you want to say something, Arunadai-Shri? From your experience, maybe we should, or maybe you can remind us of your background in school administration and so on.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. My obeisances, Guru Maharaj. I just feel enormously humbled in commenting on the whole issue of how shall I phrase it? The whole issue of safeguarding of young children, in particular, in this context that we were engaged in during our last session. And it is, you know, it is a hugely humiliating kind of, what should I say? I know there is an awful lot of wisdom that lies within our Guru Maharajas all over the place, really, and the kind of work that ISKCON has been engaged in very seriously in attending to the not just the issues, but also recognition of the fact that things do go wrong for children many a times in organizations all over the place. And I think my experience, certainly, you know, over half a century really, working in schools and policy at national level, as well as at local level and micro levels, with working with particular families over the time as well. And having also familiarized myself to some extent within Avanti, it's extremely important issues for us, for all our Avanti schools, of course, and for the workforce. Not just the realization of the importance of safeguarding children in the most robust way that we can, whatever the situation. But I think experience in ISKCON, I think it's every organization, and I with the absolute humility talking to in your presence, I think in terms of any organization, it's the organizational culture that influences and impacts on not only how well we are able to protect all those, and I don't think it is confined to children only, but it is particularly relevant to children and certain groups of children within our young society of children and young people, whether it be females or it be babies or girls or whatever. I think it's the organizational culture which we can put in an awful lot of systems in place, but the systems will not protect children unless the people who are executing those systems understand and are committed to those. And I think in terms of and within that culture, you know, my minute experience of being in your service and in ISKCON's service, very, very, very minimal contribution and experience, I must say. But I think that the couple of, because the ISKCON schools in their inspections, or religious schools, I should say, children denominational schools, whether they be ISKCON or they be Catholic schools or they be Protestant schools, over time, and I'm talking about over at least more than 45 years, 50 years, there is a certain tendency, this is a huge generalization, but this is my experience, very limited experience as an individual, but certainly repeatedly I found wherever, and in Ofsted, you know, Ofsted is the organization, that's the Office for Standards in Education, is extremely important organizations in the context of UK that takes safeguarding hugely seriously. So there have been repeatedly over decades, there will be some hugely significant issues and incidences that have arisen. But each time the conclusion has been that it's the intimacy and the closeness of any organization that can be quite kind of not in it mitigates against children's safety. The organizations, the adults in those organizations, and I'm not talking about ISKCON only, this is any organization, small school, or it be a big local authority, or it could be a very substantial organization that serves children and young people, or serves vulnerable people, but in any context, there has to be an environment which challenges itself. And I think that is where it's the culture that we develop and we grow, where every individual is committed to every child and every incident in the deepest honesty, and are willing to confront where things go wrong. We will never be able to protect children, because it means challenging each other, it means challenging ourselves. And I think and having systems in place to protect young people, particularly where their voices may not be heard, or where there may not be systems for them to raise issues or to express their concerns. So I think in terms of talking about historical issues that become embedded in cultures of an organization, where we stop seeing, that is where the alarm bells really ring, and that's where things go wrong, desperately wrong. And we learn lessons not just from each of those incidents, but from each person who was or who might be at the forefront of the suffering that such incidents can cause for an adult or a child or a parent or whoever. And I think it's that willingness, so the honesty with which we confront ourselves as an organization, but also within the organization, individuals, and our ability and willingness to learn from each incident, and to have systems in place that are monitored, that are rigorous in the way people follow them. And I think, I don't know, because we are, ISKCON is huge, and it's each of those little centers, each of those little small places, wherever they are, it's a huge responsibility to make sure at an organizational level that systems are in place which will enable people to be able to challenge themselves, but also be able to, whistleblowing is a good phrase, where there are systems to whistleblow also, because we can just, same as schools, you can have very small temples in all over the place. And when I remember my visit to Mayapur, and not that long ago, probably about 3 years ago, I spent a month there. And I did go to the school as well, and people were very kind and very generous in being able to talk about issues as well. But I think it's keeping under review as an organization, and learning from the incidents that take place always. And this is a rolling learning program that we all go through. It's that ability to challenge, and that's ability to question, and it's that openness as well in people being able to see, self-evaluate the extent to which we are actually not only absolutely mindful and transparent about the risks in every small and big organization. And then by that I mean, temples are our organizations, if you look at it in an objective way. And in small places, the practices that people follow, training for people who are in these organizations which deal with vulnerabilities. And schools and temples are very similar in that cultural context, if you like. There are a lot of young children and young people who are very vulnerable, who are in the hands of adults in schools, and it's the same in temples. Now, they are very open and yet closed environments, because there is a lot of personal relationships that we develop within the context of our faith. And the extent to which the balance is right between adults not only being open and transparent in questioning what's happening, but also being supported in how they might develop best practice in helping young children and vulnerable adults. I think so. It's a huge challenge, and Guru Maharaj, I think the training programs in such organizations, which are people organizations like ISKCON, like schools, like colleges, or nurseries, or wherever, you know, in a sense, nothing is out of bounds. So I think in terms of seeing, taking ISKCON out as an example that is not a good example would be really quite wrong, because the issues are the same wherever we are. I don't know what the infrastructure is there within, you know, ISKCON. I know there's been an awful lot of work done on safeguarding, and there's been learning from past incidents as well. But the crux of it is, you know, do we have enough systems in place in terms of the adults who are the responsible adult? Are they familiar with all these systems that we have in place? And you know, training is not I don't mean that in a very crude way, the word training. By that I mean awareness. Raising awareness is probably the key. Raising awareness of every person who is in that position of responsibility. I wouldn't use the word authority here, but in that position of responsibility, to be able to see whether things are going wrong for the one who is vulnerable, and do we have that in place? I think that's, for me, feels like the key, really. How open are we amongst ourselves, amidst our friends, and amidst our our people at different tiers of the organization? Are there systems in place to question what's going on, and questioning with the most open mind and honesty, and then supporting those people rather than vilifying and blaming them is also not the right environment. So Guru Maharaj, culture, environment, support systems in place, and you know, training is not quite. I don't mean that in a technical way, but the raising of awareness is extremely important, and I'm not sure whether we do that everywhere systematically. In fact, as well as we do in our preaching, you know, and it's almost, if we were preaching safeguarding, how would we go about doing that? Is the question that comes to my mind. That's how we work in our schools. You know, do we preaching them the mantra of how every person, every child, however small, however big, however important, or highfalutin, you know, is the culture right? Have we got the culture right in place, and to support it, and to make sure we stand back and see it with a
yes, thank you. One of the sort of unhealthy tendencies in our society, which has gone it's gone together with the missionizing spirit, that we have the absolute truth, and all we have to do is share it. And so we see things like as a one-way street, that we don't have anything to learn from others. And this has been a problem in many areas. I've been a little bit involved with a Ministry of Cow Protection and Agriculture under the guidance of Kalakanta, who might be with us on the other side of Mayapur. And you know, we start a farm. And we think, well, because we're devotees, we know everything how to farm. And it turns out, actually, we don't know much at all, because none of us are farmers. So similarly, this is how it's been with our schools. Well, we know how to make a school. Prabhupada gave some instruction, and we just followed that. And then, so this has gotten us into trouble. But I think we're learning, maybe the hard way. But all the things you mentioned, they are gradually happening. As I heard in one interview, I don't know for how long it was, but for some time, there was no child protection agency office here in Mayapur. It was there, and then it wasn't there, and the reasoning was, we don't need it here. So this, you're mentioning being self-critical, being self-challenging. The mood was, we don't need it here because we don't have any problem with it. So it was like a declaration. And that sort of is related to this confirmation bias idea. You see only what you want to see.
You know, when I visited the school, I remember, the Prabhuji who was showing around, he was amazing, great. Just went through the systems in this place in school. And one of the things that I came away and felt bothered about was the notion of older children older boys, looking after the younger boys and mentoring them. And I thought to myself, and I kind of probed a little bit about how prepared those older boys who were 14, 15, look, I think my recollection is just as an example. So how would a 14, 15-year-old know how to protect a 6-year-old or 7-year-old or 8-year-old? And I think it's about every layer, every tier of an organization. We've got to see where are the risks and how can we mitigate those. And I think it's identifying the risks, being open to those and accepting those and mitigating is the fundamental, I suppose, the rule book really. And we learn from where things go wrong. That's the universal, that's how it goes. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's see. Vrindapati, what about, did you want to say something?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, thank you for remembering. I was kind of in a little bit of, I was debating in my head whether I should contribute to the conversation as such, because there is a lot of, and since we've had the discussion last week, I've had people come visit us, come to my home, some devotees from our local yatra, and seen people online who have kind of been traumatized through this issue. And there's a lot of people who are kind of actually concerned about how sannyasis are within ISKCON as well, and whether there should be a kind of reformation of how sannyasis are treated also within ISKCON and how it's should be protecting us. So I had a few points, but I don't know. I don't want to kind of feel like I'm kind of speaking out of line. Do you know what I mean? It's a kind of a small fear that I have in the back of my head that I'm thinking that that's not necessarily great either.
No, don't. I mean, if you're fearful of being irreverent, don't worry about that. We're all friends.
Yeah. So could you just hold one moment, please? Sorry, everybody. Maybe I can just give me a few moments, please. I have somebody knocking on my door and I don't know who that is. I'll be back in one moment.
Well, meanwhile, we'll have someone else. Param, you have your hand up.
Yes, hello, Hari Om, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hari Om, Hare Krishna.
Well, actually, I have just learned about this, and I think what is wonderful with as an educational tool for anyone who is with children. I think to imagine the world from the child's point of view and how the child sees the adult, or the teacher or anyone around. Because it's kind of, children, they are basically like us, in my view, and they just have a small body so that they can't express themselves, but they are very, sharp and cognitive, and they learn everything through seeing what's around them, and they remember everything. So, I remember from my childhood when I was watching a movie, so I could enter into this entire fantasy of it. And then when I was re-seeing it, like years later, then I could recognize, oh, this is a trick, this is not a trick. But in the child's mind, it's sort of, everything is interconnected. At least it was in my mind like that. So I think that, the elders would, all people, devotees in position, if they would put themselves into the child's mind, then I think they would see it, that how this would probably have, what consequences these sort of even words have, or looks, or touches, whatever can have.
Okay, so you're suggesting more empathy with children, identifying with
with their world, and basically that there doesn't need to be all the necessity to teach someone, this sort of urge to teach
from the top down.
Yeah, this sort of, that now you must know this because I know better.
Yeah.
So I think that would also free the air a little bit.
When I think about what I was exposed to in the Mayapur Gurukul, when I was spending time there, it was very much a top-down method of education, a very, very Indian, and I think, the logic was, we are being Vedic, and Vedic means you simply hear from authority and you absorb that. And of course, the intentions were all good, but I saw limits to that, and I couldn't myself get inspired that, yes, this is how we should be having education in ISKCON. It was very good for just memorizing a lot of Sanskrit mantras and so on. It's actually very good. I sat in one class that was for 1 month every day. It was for 45 minutes. We were learning by memory the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in a very systematic way, which involved essentially completely turning off your mind and just hearing and repeating and hearing and repeating in a very scientific way, one might say. So for that, it was really good. But I didn't see a whole lot of thinking going on, or encouragement of thinking, of being self-reflective, of questioning, of raising questions and so on. So I think that maybe that's on a more intellectual level, but I think it filters through the whole culture and could be a problem. Right, thank you. ISKCON Jandelsbrunn e.V. Ramananda Gopal.
Hare Krishna. my obeisances to all of you. Thank you very much for having this discussion, because actually yesterday it happened that in my YouTube, this came up that I saw this meeting, Sanga. It was the first time, and I turned it on, and I was
Which meeting?
This from last Saturday.
Oh,
I saw the last Saturday meeting because I could not be part of it. And I must say, as Ādārya Chandika Mataji put it, it was exactly my feeling, what I had toward the whole thing. And maybe you remember, I tried to call you last week, and it was because of this, I also didn't know how to deal with the emotions and what happened, because actually I learned quite a lot also from Bhaktivinoda Swami in that sense. And but anyway, I don't want to. I think lots is said to this discussion already, and I don't want to add to this. What I really appreciate is that you or we open up this discussion, because I think this is what I miss the most, that we speak about these things. You don't need a witch hunt now, and chasing him around the world. People quoting now Prabhupada said such people should be hanged and something like that. Come on, where do we go now? What is this? But I think we have to really start. Will happen that we think about it and come to some kind of really make a change. What maybe has to do also something, or I hope it has something to do also with a change of the, how to say, a generation change somehow, and this comes on very different levels. Maybe I'm also with Vrindapati, what he said before. We have to think of what the duties of the ashrams, if we want to imply the ashram system, what are the duties, and is he really the right one to manage things, whatever projects, big or small. Is this the responsibility of the sannyasis? And many things come inside, because in the discussion, many things come up, what questioning, different ashrams. And this is one thing what I think, you mentioned this also last week, that you said actually a gurukul is run by households, and ideally, I think by vanaprasthas, went through whole this stuff and able to know how to deal with kids. And from my experience, what I have now, for somebody, for a soul in a male body to deal with kids, sometimes it's quite challenging. So I'm quite happy that in many areas my wife is taking the lead. Because there has to be so much more emotions. And when you have, for example, a couple of vanaprasthas living still together with the wife, like Sandipani Muni, then this is, the boys have still somewhere, if there's emotional issues, they have somewhere to turn to. Like therefore is said the mother of the wife of the guru is like a mother. So this is one thing. I think we have to give more weight maybe into the vanaprastha ashram, where swamis don't have to deal with marriage issues and child, all of this stuff. And
I'm all for it.
Now you can see one of them. Yod prasadam is gleich wieder da. And the other thing is as well what comes down to it, or what goes parallel with it. I think this generation, what we are right in here, we have to deal with three major subjects who are interconnected. This is dealing with women, dealing with children, and dealing for the first time with old people, with old Vaishnavas. And we really can do this, we have to think of a finance system, like a support system, what we have to implant, that later on, it starts in the very beginning, that we kind of have a social system in place, what makes sure that even a Vaishnava or a brahmachari who didn't have many followers or whatever, is taken care of. And we have to bring it in place, because till now we didn't have the situation that we had old Vaishnavas. And what do we do with them? The best would be if they are taken care in kind of an old Vaishnava home where they can do the bhajan and having Krishna Kshetra, and in this way preparing for, you know, the end of this journey. And there must be trained people as well who take care of old bodies, who cook for them, you know, that they get about them over. And that would be so revolutionary to, you know, that would be so great. I mean, I would like to.
Yeah, that is one thing that I think they do have, at least to some extent, in place here in Mayapur. They have a whole building just for senior brahmacharis. And people are taking care of them and so on.
No, but who financed this? And do I go, when I'm old, you know, can I go to Mayapur and say, here I am? You know, so, you know, this is all not clear.
You know, I'm just saying, I didn't want to say the problem is solved. What I wanted to say is simply that here in Mayapur, some attention has been given to them for local devotees. But you're right. These are all. See, the thing is, again, not to make excuses, but we have this. We're carrying on the spirit of the 1970s and 80s, when essentially there were brahmacharis, young brahmacharis, very young, in ashramas, and they were all just running out the door and doing sankirtan and book distribution. So there all of these issues of protection of the young, of the old, of women. It just wasn't there. It was nowhere in sight. Now our society has expanded, and so now all the different age and genders and everything else are there, and so we're trying to learn now how to care. But you're right. If there's going to be care, there's going to be need for funding and so on. How is that going to work? How should that work? That needs to be seen.
Well, there are different systems in place, and as you said, we can learn much from the outside world. We don't have to, to invent the real new. There's a system what can be implanted. For example, there's one like common thing. I mean, it's not so common, but it makes so much sense for me. There is a kindergarten connected with an old people home. So old people taking care of little children. That's so. That's how it should be, because the old people, they are staying much more, kind of fresh.
Like grandparents.
Yeah. They tell stories and taking care of the kids, and the kids, they have a natural connection with old age. So circle closed. And one thing more, I hope that in this discussion, there will be more heard the voices of, let's say, our generation. I don't think it's helpful again when over our heads, again, some solution, some resolution or whatever is passed, and you know what I mean. This is, I think there's a need to involve at least the next generation, and this is my hope. But I'm very, very grateful that we opened this discussion, and I hope it spread more into the wider ISKCON world. Hope so. Thank you.
We want, sort of related to the point of responsibility and who takes responsibility. This last summer, I visited, no, it was still spring. I visited Czech Republic, including the farm at Krishna Kshetra. And I was there just a short time, but I came to know well, they invited me to their little gurukul. It's a school, a purpose-built house, which is near but not on ISKCON property. And I came to know that the householders had been discussing with the temple management over a period of 2 years, how could they start a school? So the discussion was going and going and going and going, and it wasn't going anywhere. And then the householders realized, well, if we want to have a school, we just have to do it ourselves. And that's what they did. So they got together and they built a school, and the kids are going to the school. And so a lot of it is, I think this can be, I think this is another cultural thing, that somehow it's expected that the institution, ISKCON, is going to do everything. But maybe it's not necessary that the institution do everything. Maybe this devotee and this devotee and this devotee can get together and say, let's do something for Krishna. And this can happen on, I mean, it is happening throughout ISKCON. Different devotees are taking up all sorts of projects. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Vrindapati, are you there? Yes, you're there. You'll have to unmute yourself.
There we go. Thank you. So I think there is, we were having some discussions, and to contribute to the discussions here is that the treatment of sannyasis and the role of sannyas within ISKCON, a lot of devotees here are also very, or already know quite a lot about this topic. So I apologize if I'm kind of going over territory that's kind of common sense already for most people. But I think by the one way of protecting the faith of individuals in the society is a little bit more of an education on how to deal with a sadhaka guru and a siddha guru, because majority of gurus within ISKCON are sadhaka gurus. They are practicing Krishna consciousness to improve in their spiritual life, and because they've moved quite ahead in their spiritual practice, much like a sensei in a martial arts school, he can take on students to teach them and train them in martial arts. A sensei just means one who's lived before, you know, one who's lived, you know, so he's a kind of like a sadhaka. But a lot of our gurus are being treated like siddha gurus, as if they've already got to some attainment and there's a big difference between how the approach to the guru is. And when we approach gurus who are sadhakas, who have not attained siddhi of their sadhana, as siddha gurus, there is a potential for fall down, because there is an investment of faith which is unrealistic for a start, and two, it's not, it's a type of worship which is kind of going beyond the parameters of the adhikar of that guru. And so I think what's happening here is that there's no clear understanding between within our society of how the reverence is supposed to be given, and how we consider somebody an uttamadhikari, who is a madhyamadhikari, does that exist within the guru system or not, and how that reverence should be given to the spiritual master, and also to sannyasis, because a sannyasi, according to, you know, I mean, you, Guru Maharaj, already know this, and many devotees already do too, but for the sake of the conversation, a sannyasi is socially dead.
Right.
I mean, there's no.
I remember when I took sannyas, the formal ritual, Kadamba Swami was present, and he was asked to speak, and this was one of the points that he made.
Yeah.
This is your funeral.
So it's interesting you say that, because outside of ISKCON, when people take sannyas, especially within the Dashanami sect of sannyasis, they perform their own shraddha ceremony, their own funeral rites before taking sannyas, because they won't have any progeny to perform the shraddha or the rituals post-mortem.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So that is a concept, but you know, many devotees have already mentioned that then a sannyasi doesn't go to weddings, and we see sannyasis attending many weddings.
I try to avoid weddings.
Yeah.
I always say, you don't want me at your wedding. It's totally inauspicious to have a sannyasi at a wedding.
So, I mean, the kind of engagement of sannyasis within society, within ISKCON, if we kind of look at perhaps, I remember one book that Kripa Mayapur wrote on the Guru Disciple. He wrote one book. I think there's one chapter in there which speaks about how sannyas within ISKCON was supposed to be kind of based on a model on the Ramakrishna mission, where the sannyasis kind of function as missionaries, but missionaries on the level like a senior brahmachari. And so in institutions like the Swaminarayan Sampradaya, the missionaries, they have one pontifical guru who heads the entire system. And then after that, you have sannyasis people who have taken sannyas, but they have to remain in pairs with other sannyasis, so that one is watching the other sannyasi at all times.
Yeah, I've seen that, because in Oxford, at our center, the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies, we have had Swaminarayan Swamis visiting and actually studying. One, I'm not remembering his name now, but one very nice Swami, and always there was the counterpart. There was another. Technically, I think not sannyasi, more like brahmachari, but anyway, they always were in pairs. Of course, they have a kind of strictness which we can hardly imagine with regard to interaction, or the lack of interaction with women. I visited what's their big place in Delhi?
Akshardham.
Yeah, I visited Akshardham with Sugopi, who is listening right now, and her husband. And we met one of the Swamis. In fact, it was the Swami who was coming to Oxford. Yeah, Sugopi, you had to remain outside the room, wasn't it? She couldn't even sit in the same room.
Yeah. So I mean, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was as strict as this pretty much. I mean, in terms of his strictness of his sannyas, Prabhupada he was kind of had to, for the purposes of preaching, even perform a wedding ceremony. But a sannyasi firstly shouldn't be performing the wedding ceremony of somebody either, or to speak of these kind of things. So I think a revision of the responsibilities of a sannyasi and the kind of code of conduct is perhaps something that needs to be revisited, because even children, a sannyasi has no fixed abode, and since we all know—
I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I have a fixed abode where I'm sitting right now.
Well, it's an ashram. So visiting ashrams consistently, a Kshetra Swami, a Kshetra sannyasi, has a sannyas fixed abode. But really, what I'm trying to at the kind of point I'm trying to establish here is that I think sannyasis could be protected a little bit more if they didn't have to feel obliged to kind of have to deal with other people's children, because I've seen sannyasis walk around with children, you know, with, you know, holding their hands and things like that. Sannyasi doesn't have any business of, they have to have space. They have to have a few meters distance. The children don't need to be near in the proximity of a sannyasi, as close as that. A sannyasi, since the sannyas ashram has renounced everything, it would make sense that people in ISKCON should take sannyas after the age of 60 and not anything before that, because that's technically the age of when sannyasis are supposed to, kind of, according to the Varnashram system, it's a little bit later. Ramanujacharya takes sannyas a lot earlier, so does Sripad Madhvacharya, but they have a system around them where the sannyas is being supported by the society around them in such a way that there is no, the chances of fall down is mitigated by at least 80%. And so I think we're finding that within ISKCON, we have some sannyasis who are receiving a lot more worship and respect than other sannyasis. Some of the samadhis that some sannyasis get are huge and very elaborate, and some sannyasis have been asked to be cremated and put in the Ganga. And then there was a time when at Bhaktivedanta Manor, I had somebody, some sannyasi who turned up there, very famous sannyasi, I won't mention names. He was let through the gates at Janmashtami, and we know how busy Bhaktivedanta Manor is at Janmashtami, how many hundreds and thousands of people are going to be. But then the other sannyasi who came, who was not so, you know, respected and in the same way, respected, but not maybe worshipped and adored in the same way as the other one, was told to join the line for 4 or 5 hours. He was also a Prabhupada disciple.
Oh my God.
He was told, go, you know, you guys can't go through. We're letting this sannyasi through, but then you need to go with your disciples and go and line up for about 5 hours to go and have darshan of the deities.
Woo.
So, I mean, we could question the person who is perhaps giving this, actually the person already very established and knew, you know, who these people were as well. So, you know, cutting a long story short here, I think there needs to be a standardization of how sannyasis are respected within ISKCON, and overall a general review of how the code of conduct should be and the level of worship the sannyasi should be very much like how Prabhupada, I guess, and how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur originally had it envisioned as missionaries to go and push out the movement, to give diksha, be diksha gurus, but they're still not necessarily put on a platform as if they are a siddha guru, but as a sadhaka, just as other people are within ISKCON. And usually post-mortem, we find that, you know, these people who become worshipped, these great acharyas who became worshipped in the capacity that they do, it tends to happen after their demise rather than during their lifetime.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think there seems to be a little bit more of a kind of need for this kind of social revision to re-understand what Varnashram system is, if we're going to be, you know, complying with a system of what we call sannyas, which inherently is problematic because it's forbidden in Kali Yuga also. So it's just a kind of re-understanding about how much worship people are going to be having. I mean, so all sannyasis, in my opinion, should all have the same sannyas mantra when they're giving a group mantra for the spiritual master. If every sannyasi after Srila Prabhupada is under the kind of penultimate guruship of Srila Prabhupada, rather than having extra Sanskrit mantras and everything like that and display of photographs and things like that, if we had Srila Prabhupada and we had the sannyas mantra as just everybody had the same, then the treatment of every sannyasi would be equalized, will be kind of a flattish hierarchy rather than a bit more of a steep hierarchy, which
maybe you can compose such a mantra.
Well, I thought it was already done because we had Namo Vishnapadaya and then, you know, just following on what Prabhupada.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And then you just insert name here.
No, but it doesn't work exactly because you don't get the right meter. So for example, in the first of 2 mantras that devotees chant for me, I realized one day, oh, this is not actually following the meter.
Sure.
So I did a little tweaking to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, that's understandable, but I think, I mean, my point isn't to criticize any of my gurus. I have 3 ISKCON gurus. It's not like, you know, I'm kind of criticizing any sannyasi particularly here, but it's about bringing the sannyasis, it's about bringing a little bit more equality to the ashram of sannyas and protecting the ashram of sannyas. And at the same time, it manages the expectations and the level of faith that people are investing in the ashram also.
Yeah.
And so as a person who's writing a book about I'm writing a book called The Faith Crisis, which I think is particularly important at this time of you know, the climate that we are in within ISKCON, is there is faith in leaders. And if the faith in leaders was managed by ISKCON through education a little bit more to understanding what it means and what this actually means to have faith in you know, the teachings of a particular guru or a teacher, it would save a lot of hurt later on in the line for the future to come. So I'm kind of thinking of this trajectory of the future rather than just necessarily honing in on the issues that we've got currently, which is important and it needs to be discussed with huge plurality. Anyway, I think I should wrap up what I'm trying to say here by just saying that this is just kind of some thoughts that I had that I wanted to bring to the table. And I hope that I hope there are forums out there that are taking on board and noting these concepts to take back to the GBC or whoever decides all of these things.
Yeah. Well, thank you. The process of change of such things tends to be, it's like a big ocean liner ship. To change the direction can be very, very difficult. There was a quite major change in the late 1980s, well, starting in 1986, or maybe earlier, 1985, when there was so much trouble with the 11 selected, what was understood to be zonal gurus. Yeah, and that's a whole long story that some of you already know something about. There was quite a major change at that time when it was, so to speak, opened up. And that's where, and again, many of you know the story, how I became sort of rubber stamped as a guru. And I think it would have really helped a lot at that time, what you're saying about the difference between the sadhaka and the siddha guru. Part of the problem there is I don't know that we find that terminology within the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. I haven't seen it myself. Doesn't mean it's not there. Bhaktivinoda Thakura has lots and lots and lots of terminology of all sorts in his writings. But it becomes a problem for devotees. You present something like this, and then they say, well, where is it in our tradition? You know, and then, oh, well, it's in the Sri Vaishnava tradition. Oh, well. Unfortunately, there is that that sentiment, which again, it goes back to when are we going to learn from others? When are we going to allow ourselves to learn from others? Thank you. Thank you for bringing these points up. They are indeed to be dealt with. There's a question from Bhakti Sanga to everyone, and I'm not sure who is Bhakti Sanga. Maybe it's Avadutta Rai. He's asking, in a Vedic guru ashram system, the disciples receive knowledge from the teacher and the teacher's wife, a necessary affection. I think both are needed for character building. Were both of these aspects of education present in Mayapur Gurukul? Yeah, it's a good question, and I believe the answer is no. I think, yeah, because it's been very much oriented to male teachers, male senior teacher, and I think I don't know how it is now that all of this has come out, all this trouble. I know they made this one adjustment, namely that no children stay at the school overnight and who are less than 16 years old. That decision was made just a few days ago, it seems. But I agree, it's in the Upanishads. The teacher, his wife, it's in the Bhagavatam, Sandipani Muni, and his wife, or their householders. Or as Ramananda Gopal suggested, they could be vanaprasthas. This could be a very important service for vanaprasthas. And I agree, this balance of the male and the female cultures or ethos, or some might want to say energies, but whatever it is, I think that the complement, therefore, husband and wife. And actually, coming back to what Vijnapti is saying about sannyas gurus and disciples, I came to know when I was studying the Radharaman community that their understanding is that sannyasi, by taking sannyas, becomes disqualified from taking disciples. Their system is that disciples are accepted by the householder gurus. And I mean, that doesn't mean follow their system, because anyway, we're different in so many ways. But I just found it very striking when I learned that about them, because their logic, as I heard from them, is no, when you're accepting disciples, they need attention. And how is the sannyasi supposed to give attention? He's a wandering mendicant. So that's interesting. Right, Hare Krishna. Well, oh my, it's already, the time has gone quickly. Have we pretty much gone through this? I mean, I don't want to cut this discussion short, but I'm also feeling a little bit like maybe we could end on a bright note instead of this subject. And what I'm tempted to do, whoops, there's more messages. Rajamohini, oh, yes. Are there any examples of schools or gurukulas within or outside ISKCON which you find well organized and exemplary in giving a spiritual education? Could you talk a little about this? I'm quite inadequate to this topic because it's not something that I've given attention to. My attention has been on other things. We visited when I was, as Arunadai Shri knows, she took me to two of the Avanti schools. These are not ISKCON Gurukuls. They are, they're actually government schools. And Arunadai Shri was working with these schools for so many decades. And all I could get there was impressions, because we visited them for a couple of hours each. My impressions were very positive, but they don't mean very much, because also I'm not, I wouldn't be trained to even ask the right questions to find out anything of depth. We also visited the Bhaktivinoda Manor Gurukul one morning. That was fun. But again, it was just impressions and so on. Who would be able to answer that? Well, we do have a Ministry of Education, and they do have a website. And they have, I don't know if they call him now the minister or what his position is called. It was Tapan Mishra, it was Shesha Prabhu for many years. Then it was Tapan Mishra. I think again, it's someone else, and I don't even know who that is. But if you're interested, I would suggest find the website and go from there. Several gurukuls have gone through their dark periods. There's a brand new building, a new gurukul outside Vrindavan. It's some distance. It's kind of sort of between Vrindavan and Radha Kunda. It's out in the country. I saw it when they were beginning to build it. Big building. And while I was in Vrindavan, I heard it announced that they're now having the official opening of that Gurukul. These are, I mean, they're calling it, I don't know if they're calling it a Gurukul, and I don't think they have as a boarding school. But then again, even that I don't know. Maybe it is a boarding school because it's kind of isolated. Good question. I think sort of the implied question is, what are we doing right in our schools? Do we have any model schools that we can look to? I would say there are some things, some schools are doing many things right. But that's all I can say on that. Okay. Let me end on a completely different note. I have one godbrother, Kalakanta Prabhu, living in Gainesville, or maybe he's moved to Alachua. And he is a poet. Well, this is going to be a challenge for translators. Maybe it's not fair, but he's a poet, and he's written a Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, the rap of God. Rap, you probably have heard of rap music. Maybe some of you are fans of rap music. Well, this is rap Bhagavad Gita. For those of you who can follow the English, I won't read too fast, but just to give you a little of the flavor of this. And I'll start with Krishna's instruction to Arjuna in chapter 2, verse number 11. So Krishna says to Arjuna, "Such attitude and platitudes are pouring from your head, but cooler people never mourn the living nor the dead. Each one of us has lived before a countless flow of lives, and each of us will live forever. Spirit never dies. Our bodies morph from young to old to dead, and then we leave to take another body as the mindful souls perceive. As winter turns to summer, so a bummer becomes joy. But wiser dudes, there's some English slang, American slang here, but wiser dudes are never moved by things they can't avoid. When you can tolerate both tribulation and elation, you are stable and enabled to just savor liberation. An honest look at life makes seers of the truth proclaim. The mundane plane does not remain, but spirit stays the same. The spirit permeates the flesh. It's permanent and whole, and no one can diminish or destroy the deathless soul. The inner soul continues while the outer body ends. So why are you uptight about this fight, my learned friend? To think that you will kill or will be killed are both mistakes, for souls cannot be killed and souls cannot assassinate. When you can see the spirit soul is indestructible, why would you think you'd kill someone or cause someone to kill? Not once have you, the soul, been killed throughout your history. You never came, you never left, you'll never come to be. You are just who you are before the day that you were born, and you will be the same the day your friends and loved ones mourn. As people buy new clothes and throw away the old and worn, the soul replaces dead bodies with fresh ones, newly born. The soul cannot be pulled apart or burned by any blaze. No water drowns the spirit, and no wind can make it fade. The soul cannot be burned or dried or broken or dissolved. The soul will never end or shrink or mutate or evolve. And yet the soul cannot be seen or mentally conceived. Now, knowing this, why should somebody dying make you grieve? So like that, he's done the entire Bhagavad Gita. I think it's a very nice way to make Krishna's words accessible for people who can relate to rap music. Perhaps the whole, it would be good if you would record the whole thing with some rap music supporting it. Maybe we should encourage him to do that. All right, I will say thank you for coming together, and thank you for your participation, and thank you who have been translating. Special thankless task. Daityesha, you were translating. Who else was translating?
Soumya Karuni Mataji to Russian speaker.
And
I don't know if anyone else was doing. We always open and then if devotees are there, maybe the translator can come. Savitri Shyama Mataji, did you translate to German?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you, translators, all of you.
And Kavichandra.
Yes. Rasodari Hari, you wanted to say something?
Sorry, I thought that the next Saturday is Christmas, but now I see in the calendar it's not. So, sorry.
Day before Christmas.
Yeah, the day before Christmas.
So, I don't know, should we have a Sanga then, or?
Yes.
For some, yes, for some, no. Some, yeah, maybe many of you are busy with family, that's fine. But if you like, as far as I know, I'm able to do, but I'll be able to confirm that closer to next Saturday. Good, good. Okay. Oh, look, ā-laba-nath's here. Haribol. Nice to see you all. So have a good week, everyone. Chant, be happy, keep well, keep swell, keep sane, and keep sheltered in Krishna's transcendental words. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Goti Vaishnavarinda ki jai, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Rap of God ki jai, Sridham Mayapur Dham ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Krishna Kshetra Swami ki jai. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, thank you all. Hare Krishna, Hare.
Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol.